So let us discuss about the analysis of effect of pressure ratio. It may be noted that the pressure Pk and P0 and hence the pressure ratio Rp have limitations on account of operating temperatures, that is T1 is the highest refrigeration temperature and T3 is the lowest ambient temperature. Lowest means it is the ambient temperature basically. So I am saying that this is the T ambient because this process from 2 to 3 is taking place in a air cooler and it is taking place with the help of the air only. The cooling is taking place with the help of air only. That is why this temperature T3 can only be either greater than or in the limit equal to ambient temperature. Now this is the T1, which is the maximum refrigeration temperature which we would like to attain, and basically the cycle is uh, working between temperature T1, T2, T3, T4. So basically two temperatures are fixed. Temperature T1 is fixed and temperature T3 is fixed. Why fixed? Because we won't like to go above this temperature T1 during the refrigeration process, and T3 is depending upon the ambient temperature conditions. Now once again, point 1 on the diagram is fixed by the temperature T1 and also the pressure P0, which is generally equal to the surrounding atmospheric pressure. So this one is fixed by the maximum temperature of the refrigeration and the atmospheric pressure P0. So you can see the intersection of T1 and P0 gives us the point number 1. Then if suppose we are going for the cycle from 1 to, let us say, 2, then we cannot go below this temperature T3 because it is the ambient temperature. And finally this is the point number 4. So the cycle is operating between 1, 2, 3, 4. Now suppose we vary this pressure Pk. I was earlier talking about this value of Pk. Now we can vary it also. How much we can vary it? Suppose we go to Pk minimum. Now this is Pk minimum. So this is this particular line, and this is, you can say, the ambient temperature. So 2 minimum shows the minimum temperature to which we can compress. And what will happen in this particular case? With the compressor discharge equal to Pk minimum, so this is the pressure which is equal to Pk minimum, the refrigerating capacity of the refrigerating machine will be 0. Why 0? Because now already the temperature after compression process is equal to T3, which is the equal to ambient temperature. So once it is equal to ambient temperature, there is no need of the air cooler. So how the process 3 to 4 will take place? There won't be any process 3 to 4. Rather, it would be process of expansion from 2 minimum to 1 and going in the downward direction. So basically, there will be only compression and expansion process. The air will be alternately compressed and expanded between points 2 minimum and 1, and the net work is also 0, and hence the CVOP is indeterminate. Now let us consider that the pressure is increased from Pk minimum to Pk. So now I am talking about this pressure. This is Pk. So now the cycle is 1, 2, 3 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 cycle gives us the idea, yes, now the air can be further cooled from 2 to 3 in a air cooler. And at 3, what is the temperature? As I told you, 3 is the minimum ambient temperature or temperature of the corresponding air. So now you can see what is happening. Now in this particular case, the after the expansion process, the air comes at state point 4, and this state point 4 is lower than the maximum temperature. This T1 is the maximum refrigeration temperature. Maximum refrigeration temperature is T1. So it means what will happen in this particular case, I can get certain amount of the cooling effect from the point number 4 to point number 1, and it is shown by the area, this area. Okay, this is the area of the refrigerating effect. Now if I increase the pressure further to say pk dash, so what will happen in that particular case, the cycle followed will be from 1 to 2 dash to 3 dash to 4 dash. So what do you find here in this particular case? Now the cycle, in this cycle, this much area has been added, this much area has been added for the refrigerating effect. But simultaneously what you can see is, in the previous case, if you see, this was the increase in the, this was the increase in the compressor work or the network. Okay, this was the increase in the network. And now when we go for the higher pressure, there is additional this work which comes into play. So this much work has been added once again. So that will cause the compressor work to increase and expansion work to also increase, and the network will also increase. So effectively, you can see, by increasing the pressure, we are getting an increase in the refrigerating effect, but simultaneously there is increase in the network required also. And the increase in the network required is much more in comparison to the increase in the refrigerating effect. And that is why, as the pressure ratio increases, the COP of the system reduces, COP of the cycle reduces. So once again, same thing has been discussed in this slide, so I won't be going discussing this. Now let us talk about polytropic and multi-stage compression. See, till now we were talking about the isentropic compression which is taking place in the uh, compressor, but in actual case it is the polytropic compression which takes place in the system, and it is given by process from 1 dash, from 1 to 2, and isentropic processes from 1 to 2s, from the pressure P naught to Pk. Now, how we can go for the polytropic compression process from 1 to 2? It can be done with the help of the cooling actually. If we are cooling the compressor, then we can go for a polytropic compression process, and it will help us in reducing the net work of the cycle by reducing the average temperature of the compression and the value of the compression index from gamma to n. So basically two things are happening in this particular case, that the gamma goes down to n. If the gamma is 1.4 for air, then the value of n may be 1.1 or say 1.2. So that means when the value of n reduces, the uh, the work required will also reduce in this particular case. Now, what is the expression for the compressor work then? Now, in the previous case, if you remember exactly, the expression for the work of compressor, if I write that in terms of gamma, it would have been gamma minus 1 over gamma into P2 V2 minus P1 V1. That was the expression for the that was the expression for the uh, compressor work actually. Now, what will happen in this particular case? In this particular case, it will become n over n minus 1 into P2 minus P2 V2 minus P1 V1. And then what we have done, we have written this particular equation as n over n minus 1 into R T2 minus T1. Now you remember the expression Cp minus Cv is equal to R. And if I divide the whole equation by, let us say, Cp, then I will get 1 minus 1 by gamma is equal to R over Cp, which implies that R over Cp is equal to gamma minus 1 over gamma. So this will give me the value of Cp as Just let me check actually. Gamma minus 1 over gamma, it is correct. So Cp will become, yeah, R, actually I want to calculate the value of R. So R will be given by Cp gamma minus 1 over gamma. So that is what we have introduced here in this particular equation. So this is the value of the compressor work. So now we can calculate the value of the net work, which will be once again given by compressor work minus expander work. Now the compressor work is given by this expression, and the expander work was equal to Cp times T3 minus T4, and the Cp has been taken out of this bracket. So finally the value of COP can be calculated from this TDS equation. Why I am calling it as TDS? Because there is n as well as gamma involved in this particular expression, whereas in the previous case this term was not there. This term was not there when it was a isentropic compression. So when the compression ratio becomes too high, it becomes necessary to use multi-stage compression with intercooling. So you already know, if it is a air compressor, in that particular case what happens, if the pressure ratio is quite high, we will have to go for multi-staging, and then we also go for cooling in between the stages. Now let us talk about the actual gas cycle. Till now what we were considering is that the processes are taking place in a reversible manner, because, and we were considering that there is no drop in pressure and the heat exchanger, the processes in the compression and expander are isentropic, but in actual case it does not happen so. So if you will see here, actually the system is operating between the highest pressure pk and the pressure, you can say, P4. Okay, so what happens in this particular case is, let me start from point number 4 actually. So 4 is the outlet of the expander actually. So what happens when the air goes into the refrigerator heat exchanger? Refrigerator is a heat exchanger, so there is piping and there is pressure drop. So that is why you can see, if this was the actual pressure, this was the pressure at the exit from the expander, the pressure drops by an amount delta P naught actually, and this is the condition at entry to the compressor. And further you can see, we are compressing it up to state point 2, and this compression is also not isentropic, rather it is uh, polytropic with the value of n greater than gamma. So here the value of n is greater than gamma because the entropy is increasing. Then once again, when the air is passing through the air cooler, there is drop in the pressure from in the process 2 to 3. Similarly, then when we talk about this expansion process, it is also not isentropic, rather it is once again polytropic. So basically, uh, this diagram shows the actual gas cycle, which has irreversibilities, which has pressure drops, which have increase of entropy during the isentropic compression and isentropic expansion processes. Okay, so I hope that this is clear to you. Now let us talk about application of air cycle to aircraft refrigeration. Now basically, this gas cycle refrigeration is exclusively used in air conditioning systems of military and commercial aircraft. तो गैस साइकिल को हम कहाँ पे यूज़ कर रहे हैं? जो कमर्शियल एयरक्राफ्ट्स हैं और मिलिट्री एयरक्राफ्ट्स हैं उसमें यूज़ कर रहे हैं। दो रेफ्रिजरेटेड कार्गो एयरक्राफ्ट जनरली यूज़ ड्राई आइस। तो रेफ्रिजरेटेड कार्गो एयरक्राफ्ट में तो ड्राई आइस यूज़ करेंगे, बट कमर्शियल और मिलिट्री प्लेन्स में हम जो है एयर रेफ्रिजरेशन को यूज़ करते हैं। अब क्वेश्चन ये आता है कि हम इतनी हाइट पे जो एयरक्राफ्ट फ्लाई कर रहा है, the temperature is quite low there, because if you know that the lapse rate means, as we go up, if I don't remember the exact value, somewhere around 160 meter, when we go up, the temperature drops by 1 degree Celsius. So when the temperature will drop by 1 degree Celsius, so if the aircraft is flying, if we go up to 1000 meter above from the sea level, the temperature will drop somewhere around 6 to 7 degrees Celsius. And you know that an aircraft flies at a height of around 10 kilometers, 8 to 10 kilometers from the sea level surface. So you can see that there is a drop in temperature which is equivalent to somewhere around 60 to 70 degrees Celsius in comparison to the ambient temperature, which may be somewhere around 30 or 35 degrees Celsius. So you can understand that the temperature at such a height is minus 30, minus 40 degrees Celsius, and still we want that we should go for the air conditioning of the aircraft. So I think you can think about this and give a thought before you proceed to the next slide and listen to the reason. Okay, what is written here? It is more appropriate to call it as air cycle refrigeration since only air has found application as a working substance in this cycle. So uh, basically in gas cycle we are mainly using air as the refrigerant. So that is why sometimes we also call it as the air refrigeration cycle. Now once again coming back to the same question, let me move over to the next slide, then I will explain you why we are going for the air conditioning of the aircraft even though there is lot of cold air which is available to us outside. So somebody may think that why not to use that air which is already available outside at the low temperature and we can use it inside. uh, yes, there is one more problem along with this low temperature which is minus 30 or minus 40 degrees Celsius, that as we go up the pressure of the air also reduces. The pressure actually reduces to somewhere around 0.2 bar to say 0.3 bar. So you must know that as the pressure of the surrounding air is quite low, and if the same air is sucked into the aircraft, so the inside temperature will fall down to zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.3 bar. And what will happen, you know, see if we will compare the pressure of the blood in our system, means if we take the blood pressure and the pressure which is zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.3 bar, then our blood pressure is quite high in comparison to the surrounding air pressure. So in that particular case the blood will ooze out from nose, mouth, ears, etc., eyes, etc. So that will create a problem when we are flying at a about 10-kilometer height and the pressure is low. So to avoid such problem we will have to go for the pressurization of the aircraft also, so that we maintain a pressure of around zero point 0.9 bar to 1 bar, so that such type of problem do not happen actually. Now let us come back to the same question which may be haunting you now. Okay. uh, yes, there is one more point. The coefficient of the performance of this cycle is lower than that of vapor compression cycle. Now this is also a very important point. Now you know air cycle has a very low temperature, low coefficient of performance. I think I wanted to say that the COP of the air cycle is quite low in comparison to the COP of the vapor compression cycle. Still, we are choosing this cycle actually, and still it is continues to be favored for aircraft aviation because it has many advantages. Okay, so same question I asked you a little bit earlier. Now let us see its answer. The present day jet aircrafts have very high cooling loads. Number one, because of their large occupancy, electronic equipment, and high velocity and consequent heat generation due to skin friction. So there is lot of skin friction which causes the air to rub against the surface of the aircraft, and this causes heat generation, and that heat also gets added to the aircraft. So you cannot say that there is no heating load, there is no cooling load required in case of aircraft. Actually, we need to cool it because of these reasons which are given here, which are specified here. Now there are two types of the air cycles. The one is open cycle and other is the closed air cycle or dense air cycle. The Bell-Coleman cycle which we studied earlier is actually closed cycle are dense air cycle only. So this is the dense air cycle, or the Bell-Coleman cycle, or the Joule cycle, or the reverse Brayton cycle. All are actually dense air cycles. So I am not going to discuss about it now. I will discuss now about uh, yes, there are few points about it that I can tell you. A closed air cycle system or a dense air machine has many thermodynamic advantages. It can work as a suction pressure P naught, which is higher than the atmospheric pressure. This reduces the volume handled by the compressor and the expander. Also, the operating pressure ratio Pk by P naught can be reduced, resulting in higher coefficient of performance. You know that the COP of dense air cycle or Bell-Coleman cycle is given by 1 over Rp raised to power gamma minus 1 over gamma minus 1. So if the pressure ratio will reduce, the COP will increase. Now let us talk about the open air cycle. So in case of open air cycle, uh, this pressure at state point 1 or state point 4 cannot go below the atmospheric pressure. So what is happening in this particular case? We are compressing from 1 to 2 in the compressor, from 2 to 3 it is the heat rejection in the uh, heat exchanger or air cooler, and then 3 to 4 processes taking place in the turbine, and 4 to 1 is left open, means the air at state point 4 is led to the conditioned space directly and we throw it there. We don't have any heat exchanger here for the process 4 to 1. So automatically the temperature of the air gets established at point number 1 when we are throwing it into the cabin or in the aircraft. So that is the reason that why we need to expand the air to 1 atmosphere pressure. This requires larger volume to be handled. So that is the problem with this particular case actually. But we will be using it. There are certain reasons for those. The size of compressor and expander nowadays are not affected significantly since both of them are turbo type and rotational speed of the assembly is of the order of 1 lakh rpm. So why this point comes into picture is that when the air is expanding up to 1 bar, it means the volume of the air will be larger, and to cater to this larger volume we need to have turbo type compressor. Okay, and if the compressor and expander both are of turbo type, that is usually in case of aircraft, and with a rotational speed of 1 lakh, so we can handle such large volume flow rate. So it's not a problem in this particular case actually when we are using the open air cycle. The open air cycle has another advantage over the closed cycle system in respect that it does not require a heat exchanger for the refrigeration process. I have already told you that we are directly leading the air to the cabin, so we don't require a heat exchanger at the cold end. This saves the weight and cost of the equipment. It, however, has one disadvantage. When the air is drawn from the refrigerated space, it is humid and it might produce fog and ice at the end of the expansion process in the expander and clog the line. So we need a dryer in the circuit in such a case. Now this point is very important. The main considerations involved in an aircraft application in order of importance are weight, space and operating power. Though the power per ton of refrigeration is considerably more for air refrigeration than for vapor compression system, the bulk and weight advantages of air cycle system due to no heat exchanger at the cold end and a common turbo compressor for both engine and refrigeration unit result in a greater overall power saving in the aircraft. So it is an important point. So there is no heat exchanger at the cold end and a common turbo compressor for both engine and refrigeration. So overall there is power saving because weight is reduced, and weight is the reason that we go for air cycle in case of aircraft. Advantages of air cycle with regard to its application in aircraft refrigeration are as follows. Number one, small amounts of leakages are tolerable with air as a refrigerant. Now, I would like to tell you, if we would have been using vapor compression system, what will happen in that particular case? If suppose the refrigerant leaks from the system in the mid-air, what will happen in that particular case? Then there won't be any air conditioning in the aircraft. how the temperature inside the cabin will increase a lot. There won't be any cooling of the electronic equipment. If there won't be any cooling of the electronic equipment, they may malfunction, and the people who are sitting inside the cabin will also not be feeling comfortable. Air cycle in its simplest form as an open system requires only one heat exchanger. Okay, only one heat exchanger, which is after the compressor, that is required. On the cold air side or the cold end, you don't require a heat exchanger. Availability of the refrigerant in mid-air is also an important consideration. Means suppose if the air is leaking, the air is available outside itself, so you can take the air from there also. So it won't be any problem. Cabin pressurization and air conditioning can be combined into one operation. This is also very important. So that is why we go for air refrigeration in case of aircraft. I think further I will take in the next class.